Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host here, Chantele Francis, with my amazing co-host, Tanya. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. We just talked about it a little bit before we came live, and I'm not used to this darkness. It's so dark.
It's very
It's like
dark.
pitch black outside, and I'm just like, oh, it's so far away from sunny summer days.
I know. I'm like trying to split my day up with like little errands to run in between like work stuff so that I can at least get some sunlight in because I can't function like not getting that fresh air and at least a little bit of
And I
sun.
also don't like going to the store, like going a walk to the store at like in pitch black. For whatever
No.
reason, it just seems like I have to get it in before the sundown, like
Well,
uh,
actually, yeah.
it's very funny because like I have a class on the weekends and it finishes at 6:30 and I'm always like, oh, I have to either go before the class at like 11 or like I can't get anything outside because I won't have a chance. And yeah, I get really anxious about it. So we're in for the night though. So Wednesday night is going to be our evening of staying in, getting cozy, talking about the Bachelorette, and then later watching a little bit of Survivor and watching. Oh, and you got some tea. Okay, that's a nice wintry activity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hi, Tamika. Thanks for being here. We're going to talk about episode 4 of The Bachelorette. And if this is your first time joining us here on Reality Realness, welcome. Please do us a big favor and subscribe so we can just build a community of people that love talking about reality TV. So, this episode, there was actually I found some pretty profound moments that I was able to relate to. But then there was also some dull moments. So let's just kind of stumble our way through it and see kind of what comes up. Oh, but I do have one thing that happened in the echelon of Bachelor Nation, and that's the Mike Fleiss is teasing out who the next Bachelor is. Um,
Like,
is he just trolling? Like, we know who it is, babe.
like they're filming him, aren't
Well, they're
they?
being like, "Ooh, guess who the next Bachelor might be?" And it's like, what we know.
And you've done nothing to like further this character this season at all. Like he's such a non-factor right now. So is this them trying to like, I don't know, figure out how to market this because they haven't done a good job? Like at what point did they decide? That's actually what I want to know. At what point did they decide? Like while it was filming, obviously, but like how early on? Like I'm just confused about the choice. Like you would think that if they made that decision so solidly and just decided to go with it, that this would be some kind of phenomenal lead, like energy, like huge potential. And yet I'm not seeing it. Not to say that he's like awful or anything, he's just like there.
Absolutely. I mean, the only thing that I've seen really from him so far is doing a couple of awkward, like spinning things with Michelle. Okay, so like that's gonna be our watch if we do end up covering it, is to see if he does any of those same spinning things with his like mini one-on-one dates with his women. But he basically kind of stood up a little bit to Peter.
Yeah, a
That's
little
all I
bit.
got.
Yeah.
Like nothing. Hi, Taboo. Hey, dweebs.
Hey, dreams.
Bringing back a word. Thank you, Nate. Nate is great. Bringing back the word dweeb. And you know what? The dude really is a dweeb. We'll get into it, I'm sure, quite a bit. Thank goodness for Chris S, because I'm going to get a little bit of points so I can start catching up to you here. But he's a dweeb.
Oh my gosh, what a great word.
Perfect.
Great insult.
So, Olu, Rodney, Leroy, even Rick would have all been better leads. I'm not really a fan of seeing Rick's story like in the long term. I'm fine with him on this show, but I don't want to see his whole love journey. But any of those other three, I would love. There's 0% chance that any of those other three would be the lead. Like I can't see it. Can you see a a darker skinned black man be the lead. I can't. I don't think it will ever happen, to be honest, unless they're a celebrity already. And Rodney, he's not typical enough. You know what I mean? Like, he's not universally handsome enough to be the lead, I don't think.
I think like all of them could be, but
should be. I would love to see them.
Yeah, like not to suggest that you'd say otherwise. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I agree in the sense that like production at this point has even had a hard time casting in a way that showcases different types of diversity. And like it's on such a binary, like it's like it doesn't make sense how they're even able to facilitate that. Now they're doing a little bit better, but the standard was like the bar was on the floor to begin with. So it's unfortunate, but all of these people would be better options. And like to Tamika's overall like point here, like there's other people on this very season that I think would have been better than Clayton, not having seen him in the lead position, but just in general, based on everything. I'm like, such a weird decision.
Well, and this is the thing. Is it like, are they trying to pretend like we don't already know that he's the lead? So they don't want to be too heavy-handed? But I'm like, but you already chose him as the lead. So get us excited about him, because I'm absolutely not at all. I don't want to see him on a date with Michelle. Like, I'm like, nah. Like, there's other people that I'm interested in to see what their relationship could bring. So I don't really need to see them together on a date. Like, I don't see that much chemistry so far. It doesn't seem like she cares for him that much. He doesn't seem like he cares for her that much, which is fine. But I just don't know why, if he's going to be the lead, why they're not selling it to us better.
Mm-hmm.
Please, make me like him. Maybe get it.
And I'm sure there must be overlap in the editing to reflect that. So I'm just wondering what they're waiting for. Or maybe the strategy is to keep it very simple, so as to not steer any type of controversy from that. I think they just really are going for this like very basic approach and very like low risk, in the sense of the most vocally pissed off people, the people in the fan base that are maybe more conservative minded, are not going to push back to someone like him. So it's just like, it's not a good choice for furthering the franchise. Like, the franchise is just slowly dying as they make these decisions. And if it's to be believed, spoilers potentially, this is not confirmed, but spoilers for the second back-to-back Bachelor, most people in this chat probably already know, is that they're considering Blake Moynes, which is just like, we don't need that. Like, we don't need this.
But they wanted. I also heard that if it's Blake Moynes, they'd be doing it in Canada.
Oh God!
Which wouldn't you try? Let's go try to spoil it.
Seriously,
find out where they're filming. That could be kind of fun, as if we could go in live correspondence. But like, I think that might just be a little bit of a red herring, just to throw us off the scent, and it actually is going to be Michael A. Like, that's kind of what I think is going on, which is also dismal. That's like a dark timeline. Like, what did we do to deserve this? I don't know. Hi, Charlene. Thanks for being here. Charlene agrees with you, Tamika. And Natalie's in the house. Thank you for being here, Natalie. Nate is my sexiest man alive. He is very handsome. And not that this person is a good person, but there's been a lot of comparisons that he looks like Chris Brown.
Oh, wow. He does have similar features to Chris Brown.
And Chris Brown is not the greatest man alive, but I find aesthetically very attractive. He's very good looking, I think. Okay, the other one, which is I would think that you would have pointed this out, but I think it's super funny, is that Casey has a celebrity doppelganger. Can you guess who people have been comparing him to?
Casey. I don't know.
I feel like you would know this. I'm going to try to send it to you telepathically.
I'm not sure.
Dane Cook.
What are you, Dane Cook? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh dear.
They actually even sound the same though. Think about Casey. Think about his kind of dry delivery. Like they have a similar even vocal quality, and so I could totally see the similarities.
Wow.
You can't unsee it.
I can see it. I can see it. Yeah, I would. That's a good call, Natalie, in the chat. Dax Shepard, I see that as well.
Oh, that's what I meant. Dax Shepard. They're the same person to me. Dax Shepard. Not Dane Cook. They're the same person to me, but it's Dax Shepard is who I mean. Thank you, Natalie. Oh my God. Yes. Wait, which one is married to? Yeah. Which one's married to Blondie?
Kristen Bell. Yeah.
That's Dax. Is married to Kristen Bell. Mm-hmm. That's who I've been meaning this whole time.
No,
but wait, who's Dane Cook though? They're similar though. Hold on. What's the difference between
now like kind of washed up comedian that was very popular like in the 2000s?
Dane Cook versus Dax Shepard. Oh my God, they're the same person though. Hold on.
They're very similar looking and like their energies are very similarly chaotic, in my opinion.
I don't even know what the difference is between them though. Is that Dax or is that Dane Cook? Well, sorry for my misactor. It's like I don't see it. Oh no, they're definitely different. Okay, yeah. Sorry, Dax Shepard, 100%. Thank you, Natalie. All right, Tamika says Blake or Michael A, but either way, another conservative decision. Yes, that is the first time I've seen it. I think that. Well, I mean, I think Nate is like very, very attractive. Rodney doesn't have swag to be the lead, get friend zone vibes. It's true. He does have that. You get along with him really well. Probably great in a crowd, great in a group, great as a friend. But being romantic with that many women, I can't really see him necessarily being able to juggle them in the way that a lead kind of needs to. So I don't know if he'd be the greatest for that role, but I would rather see it over Blake. Yes. All right. So that's any other gossip from the franchise before we start with this episode?
I gotta be honest, I haven't been really on top of it in the last week. I was just doing a new career, which is very exciting. So I've just been kind of like absorbed in figuring that out right now. But I don't think there was anything major that happened. A bunch of Bachelor franchise people ran the New York City Marathon. So
I did see that.
That's about everything I've got on my end.
Yeah. So yeah, the people that I've seen run were obviously like Tyler Cameron and Matt James and Tasha and Zach and Dustin. And is that it?
I think Dr. Joe ran.
Dr. Joe.
I was listening to another podcast where they somebody had compiled the order that everyone finished, and Dr. Joe had the fastest time, which is very impressive for a marathon. It's not an easy thing to run, so no shade to people who finish slower, obviously, because it's a long race. But Dr. Joe just coming in speedy.
How long does it take to run a marathon? Like a slow average?
Like 4 hours.
Okay, that sucks, but
less than 4 is like averagely less than 4 is like decent.
Have you ever run a marathon before?
Like proper. No, I've only done a half marathon.
How was that? Terrible?
No, I like that distance. It's really for me appealing because I can run for less than 2 hours. That's doable. But I've never done a full marathon just because I'm worried I injure myself or something. That's a lot of stress on your joints to be running for that long. And you have to seriously train for that stuff too. So it's just also a really big time commitment. But it's a nice achievement for sure. Like very impressive for anyone to finish one.
I've never really done that. Like, I'm not really a big fan of running as a form of exercise. I've definitely done it a few times with like a runner friend. It was just like, come running with me. And it was just like, we just ran forever. And like, there is what I found interesting is there's a point of no return where it's kind of like you get over that hump and then you can actually really run kind of forever. And I did get there twice. But like the lead up to that point is so bad. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's like 45 minutes of it not feeling great.
Yeah. I love it. It's like my preferred exercise form, but like I've been running, like I was like seriously took up running when I was in university. And like for me, it was really huge for my mental health. Like it's just a really great way for me to kind of have some time to like almost, it feels like meditative to me and to just kind of like be myself and just like be breathing air and like feeling the ground under me. So I really love it for that, but I totally get why it's not everybody's cup of tea. And it is hard on the body. Like for that reason too, it's tough to do all the time because it's a lot of stress on the joints, a lot of stress on your entire body to be hitting the ground like that constantly. So
I think for me it's because I never had to take phys ed. I could always take dance in school. And so I never had to do that type of training. So I never had to like climb ropes. I never had to do sprints back and forth. Like I never had to, scrimmage or whatever it's called. Like I never had to do that stuff. Maybe when I was 8, when I was on the soccer team, but like after the age of 9, I always did dance. So running was just like something I never got into. And then I just want to get to that point, but it's just so tedious to get to that point. But I totally the meditativeness and actually really being at one with your body, really using your body to its full capacity is quite cathartic. And so I understand the addiction and like the desire to want to have that experience, but I haven't found that love yet myself. All right, Natalie wants to know if we saw Jamie's tweets.
No.
What was he saying? Like he was on a TV show and leave my friends and family alone, I think. Let us know what he says, Natalie. I don't remember. I didn't see them, or I saw somebody recounting them, but I didn't see them myself. So the beginning of this episode, we see Romeo. He's talking about in his ITM that he drank the Jamie Kool-Aid, and he's talking with Casey and Joe, and they're kind of being like really proud of Michelle in the sense that like, look, we had a snake in the grass and she sussed it out and she got rid of him right away, and she's a strong woman. And I do like that they started it off with them speaking better in a positive light.
Yeah. So, I forgot that was even how we ended off last week too. I'm like, oh yeah. It feels like Jamie's been off the show for weeks. But it was 1 week.
Well, mid-episode, so maybe that's why it felt so far away. Caitlyn chats with Michelle, and Michelle's still a little bit shaken up from the Jamie of it all, but they talk about being in a new week and they're just able to kind of cleanse any negative energy and move forward. So that's what we're doing this week. So what did I write here? Okay, so she's looking for all the guys to be. Say again?
I said we're cleansing while the producers find a new villain.
Exactly. Now, I know that we didn't really care for Jamie and his antics because they negatively impacted Michelle. But is that the reason why this episode wasn't great? Is because we didn't have a villain? Like, what do you think is the reason why this episode kind of fell flat?
For me, it was a combination of a couple of things. I think I personally didn't have investment in the one-on-ones in the sense that I see the narratives that are being crafted around both of those men as contenders, but I don't particularly see a deep connection. And then also she was shaken and very off, as we know, in the group date too. And I feel like she just like wasn't wasn't as like, like present and engaged as she is normally, which is totally understandable. I'm not, discrediting why she was feeling that way, but I think those factors combined made it not as exciting of an episode to watch for me.
Yeah, you're right. It's because those two one-on-one dates were just like, we know you're not picking
Yeah.
them. We know that. We're just
Okay. Yeah.
So I had to laugh a little bit when we kind of got all the guys together and Chris S goes to take a seat. I believe it was beside Nate, to be honest, and he
And so,
falls back on the chair. So do you think that the producers were like, oh, this is perfect to have him like go from like ooh fall in front of the guys and kind of be like a laughing stock to like evolve into the villain.
yeah, or they were like, this will work for the dweeb edit that we're putting together for this guy. Here's him falling. It was Joe that was sitting beside him, and Joe, Joe literally had no reaction. He was just like sitting there. Does this man react to anything?
He's handsome though. I mean, he's so good looking. I do want to see more of a personality though from Joe. He's gonna have to step it up. He better step it up in Minnesota. He better.
For sure, that's what's gonna happen.
So Tayshia introduces the date card. There's going to be 2 one-on-ones and 1 group date. Chris S reads the group date, and it says, "Martin, let's get love back on track." So we already know it's going to be like a race car track date. I wonder if they could just do a better job with teasing the next episodes, because like I already saw the date. Like I didn't need to see anymore. I knew that's what they're doing. I knew the one line is to eat my dust. Like
Yeah. And it's just like such a basic idea. Like, don't get me wrong, it looked kind of fun to be driving those cars like that. I don't drive, so I don't really know anything about cars. But I get why that would be an appealing date. I think it's just like one of those dates that they like to throw in where they like put the female lead in like a more gendered, like masculine setting to show how hot and cool she is because she can like drive a car fast. And it's just like such a basic idea to me that it doesn't really get my buy-in, but I do think it was probably a good date for Martin. Like I feel like his personality type kind of suits that Fast and Furious inspired drive, but whatever.
I think though I would rather bumper cars. I know that they're getting some product placement in there with the BMW performance track, whatever. But like it's actually kind of dangerous, and so it scares me a little bit because I have actually had a friend of a friend who won like go race some cars in Vegas, and he ended up losing control and crashing and not coming back home alive. And so it just scares me a little bit that they're going to be going at such great speeds and they're not professional drivers, even being close to each other. Like it scares me in a way that is not enjoyable to watch personally. It's not like if people were playing with guns, like you're just like, it's just I can't feel relaxed watching it just because I know that they're not professional stunt drivers, you know?
Oh yeah. And it did, I mean, they weren't even really racing in so much as they were drifting, which I get is a thing, but yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not the audience for this date. Like I said, I don't know how to drive. So it's not really appealing to me, but I get it's very tropey, right? Like they love a trope like this.
Now I do remember in high school though, I had a friend Adam, and he had like a souped up Honda Civic hatchback with like big exhaust, and it was like really low to the ground. And I used to live like at the end, like I guess it's a cul-de-sac, so like there's a big circle on the end where my house was. And so whenever he dropped me off, he'd like go super fast and like pull the handbrake and do, I guess, drift or I don't know, turn. It was rather fun, not gonna lie. But I don't know. I think I'd feel terrified on like with a BMW on a track on TV. So scared. So the next interesting point was that Olu thinks that Martin might be two-faced for the fact that him and Jamie were really close. And so this is something that I was thinking about last week. I was like, why didn't Jamie say that, like, at least like Martin was someone that he talked to, or Martin say like, yeah, Jamie said this to me. And now that makes sense now that they're both kind of covering for each other, being that they were close friends. So were you surprised to hear this?
I wasn't surprised because, I mean, this is like the backstory that we don't really get. Like, I feel like it was like, oh, we just know now because it was pointed. But Martin was the person that was talking to Jamie about everything and seemed to be more agreeing, or at least like more on the same page as what Jamie was saying, versus all of the other guys being like, no, it's not true. Like, Martin was the only one that was kind of entertaining it to the point where like he maybe even thought that he was going to get in trouble for that. So, I mean, this entire thing is kind of strange. Like them being friends, and then also his defense in the date was really odd for me. And also in that tin hot tub, which looked
this date
like,
wasn't where it was at all. So we get to the racetrack and Martin's kind of standing there by himself, and a car comes speeding around the corner, and Michelle's in the passenger seat with, I'm assuming it was Brian that was driving her around the track, and she goes and meets up with Martin, and Brian explains for them that they're going to find out who is the better driver. They're going to be drifting at the same time, I guess. So she says, I believe it's Eat My Dust. So we saw that many times in the preview. And after they go and they're drifting, there was literally a metal tub somewhere on the racetrack that I'm sure had freezing cold water inside of it.
Yeah, what is that? That looked like something that belongs on a farm. Like a trough. Like, it didn't look like it should be a tub. And furthermore, what does that have to do with like, what on earth would require them to get into this tub of water afterwards? Like, I know it's hot there, but like, huh? Like, it's not even like they did something particularly physical. Like, I guess they wore a helmet. Like, I don't understand.
Did they?
Still water? Like, I don't, just is sitting in this still water tin tub is one of the least appealing things ever.
Like, it wouldn't even be comfortable because like the top of the metal tin would be going in your back. The water wouldn't be warm. It would be like still collecting bacteria water. I don't know. It was a very odd choice. I totally agree with you there. So this is where Martin decides that it's the best time to defend Jamie. And she does kind of bring it up in the sense that she's like, yeah, I know that you and Jamie were close friends. But like, this conversation got awkward. I was just like, oh my God, I don't know if he's going to get a rose. I'm like, this is uncomfortable. And I just felt like she just was like wanting to move as far away from him as possible. And I was like, this is not going. Pardon?
Her body language was like, get your arm off of me. It was not feeling. I thought he was actually done for in this moment. I was like, I don't think he's going to be able to recover from this, because you could see her be like, okay, what? You know, like she was really not liking that take. And if I hold space for the fact that like he's like, doesn't think that Jay's the worst person in the world because he did that, fair enough. But like, read the room. Like, this was not place nor time to kind of keep digging into that conversation a little bit. And particularly when her response was like, no, I don't really think. Like, are you questioning me, or are you questioning my decision? He doesn't know, I guess, about the root, or does he know about the rumor? Like, or were they just talking about, I can't remember now. Either way, like, I think she had more than enough information to make the right call there. So it was just like really odd that he was feeling the need to do that.
That he's kind of like, you know, well, he's gone and I'm still here. So, and I was like, you're just how like you should have just been like, yeah, he was my friend, and I understand completely how what he did was completely inappropriate, and I support your decision. Like, it sucks because he's my friend, but I totally support your decision, and I completely understand where you were coming from. Something like
Yeah.
that. Something. And I was just like, oh boy, she felt her decision was being questioned by him. He wasn't doing a good job with like making her feel comfortable about anything. And I was like, okay, I think that he's not even going to get the night portion of the date because like this went very badly. So they do end up going to the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory. So I was like, why do they need to show us this? But I guess it's product placement in a new way. And they're talking at the table, and this conversation started off pretty poorly, in my opinion. He talks about how, like, I don't cry, I don't show my emotions, and I'm just like, ugh, nobody really wants to hear that because then it looks like you're being controlled, that you're kind of like, you're only going to be saying what you think that she wants you to say. You're not going to be completely authentic, that you're holding back. And so I was like, Martin, you're not really doing well. But she decided, I feel, to let her guard down and started to talk about how she's similar and that she does have a hard time showing her emotions as well, and that she never cried most of her life until she went away to college, as they say. And when she came back, her parents recognized that she was being more open and forthright with some of her feelings and where she was coming from. So she connected with him on that level. And when she made that decision, there was a shift in their conversation. What do you think about their dinner date?
I think there's a valid point that comes through there, like how it's ingrained in many people, and in particularly in a lot of men, to not show emotion in that way, not see emotion in that way, especially like people of like probably Martin's parents' generation, my own parents' generation. It's like not something that is ever present. Like a lot of people don't see their father figures like crying, or if you do, it's like some immensely intense situation. So I think like fair enough. I was just surprised that I could tell by the music that they were underscoring it with that it was going in a positive direction, but that's not how I necessarily felt watching it. I was just kind of like, huh, all right. But it was the positive, like romantic music underneath and not the awkward silence or like sus music underneath. So I knew he was getting the rose then and there. For whatever reason, they're committed to him being around for a bit longer, but he is not really an option, I don't think. I don't foresee him being a finalist.
I don't. Neither do I. Tamika is not a fan of Martin or Rick, really. Well, I not for Michelle, but I do find Martin attractive. But he didn't come across great this episode, I found. But I do think aesthetically he's a good-looking guy. Olu says that they call him Sleepy Joe or something like that. That's so cute, though. I love when guys give other guys nicknames because it's a term of endearment, of course. And so, even though he's quiet and sleepy, like that tells me that Olu likes him. You know what I mean? And I like that.
Yeah.
So Michelle feels that Martin listens, and she ended up giving him the rose, and I believe that they kiss at the table, and then they go upstairs and they start looking at the stars. But I have to say, I think astronomy is really cool. Space is so cool. One of the reasons why I really like astrology is because it's like it's in the stars. Like it's actually all there, all the stories, all the mythology, like all the meanings behind these planets and everything. Like it's just so fascinating. And the one space fact, I don't know if it's true or not, but it feels like it's true, and I take it to be true, is that everywhere in the universe is the center of the universe because it's that big. I'm like, that's so mind-blowing to me. That like I almost can't even conceptualize that, but that's how fascinating the space and stars are to me. Are you a fan as well?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's just also a beautiful set piece, right? Like to have that shot of like the star backdrop and then kissing under that. It's very like big romantic, like rom-com vibes. So I think it was like a very well selected setting to kind of drive that romance piece of the show. I don't know that their chemistry like really is on fire, but it's not terrible from what we see.
And she says, now every time I look up at the stars, I'll think of Martin. I don't know if you're feeling him that much, Michelle, but you might, it might be true, but I don't think you're that into him. So we got some points over there. So you get 5 points for him getting that rose, whatever. And for getting the one-on-one date, of course. And for getting topless.
True.
So you got 15 points for this guy, this dud. So back at the house, so the next date card comes and Rodney reads it. It's going to be Will, Chris S, Casey, Chris G, Leroy, Rodney, Olu, Brandon, Clayton, Joe, Romeo, and ... Nate. So Nate does not get the one-on-one. It's going to be going to Rick. Sorry, never mind. Rick is going to be getting the one-on-one because these guys are going to be going on the group date. And for their group date, they're needing to surrender to love. Heart, Michelle. So were you surprised that it's going to be Rick getting this date?
Yes. Not actually, because like we kind of knew from the preview, but I mean actually in the sense that I feel like this is a really long time. I'd have to go back and like look at the data here. This feels like a really long time before a frontrunner gets a one-on-one date. In particular, thinking about Joe and Nate at this point. It's been weeks. And like I can only imagine that they're reserving their one-on-ones for when they go to Minnesota. Like that seems to be why. Like I guess that will be more impactful for their stories because it's in her hometown. Obviously Joe's also from there. So they'll have like that deeper connection of getting to know her in her hometown, which is a thing. But yeah, very surprising. And even Rick amongst a lot of the other choices, I was like, maybe Brandon J. Like, you know, like there's like other people that I could have seen having that time sooner.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's because they want to reserve like better dates for her hometown, home city. I'm just kind of like, I'm not that big of a fan of Rick, and I'm not feeling their chemistry. And so I kind of would like to see someone that like her eyes actually do light up when she sees them. I want to see just a little bit of that. So maybe they should have done like one date, somebody that's like a Martin or a Rick, and then something with a Joe or a Nate, and like give them multiple dates. Like, you know, like you have the opportunity to give them more than one-on-one. So give them one in the hometown too. Who cares? Like that causes drama, right? So the catalyst of the villain emergence was when Nate's name was not on the one-on-one. Well, it was on the group date card. And he says, you know, I'm good. Like, I'm feeling good. I don't know, might have said I'm feeling confident. Like, I know that I'm going to get a one-on-one date in the future. So how did you take this when you saw him say this?
I didn't take it any bad way. I was just like, he feels confident in his connection with her. I don't see what's wrong with that. I'm sure, like, did you not feel like they obviously like isolated this clip in a way that made it seem like he said it out of nowhere, when in reality, like in these living room gatherings, like they probably ask everybody to weigh in on how they're feeling, because people don't just speak like that. Like that's just like not how normal conversation flows. But I think they really like pushed it in a way where it seemed like he just said it out of nowhere, and then that ended up being the conflict, the central conflict of the episode, is that he's like being cocky about it. But I was like, who cares? He's confident. He is confident. He's justified in that because his connection's going well. And I don't see why that's an issue for anybody else. Like, worry about yourself. Like that was how I was taking that.
100%. So when Chris S was like, "Oh, like I think Nate's being cocky," I was like,
Hockey.
I didn't really see that at all, because we've been teased for the whole season that there's going to be some sort of confrontation between Chris S and Nate, and I'm like, what is Nate gonna do? Like, he's been such a person that's been great with diffusing all the conflict and kind of being the voice of reason in many situations. So the fact that he was going to be the one that's involved in drama is like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And I agree with you that he was just being like, yeah, like, I'm gonna get a rose. Like, of course I am. Like, maybe it could even be false confidence, because it's like, oh, like, I thought that we had a connection, but like, I thought I would get a rose by now, or a one-on-one date by now, and he might just be saying that to make himself feel better about their connection. So either way, I just don't feel like it's coming from a cocky place. It's either coming from an insecure place or confident in their connection place. But how he's been acting in the rest of the episodes, he's always been like, I'm just going to focus on my relationship with Michelle. I know what we have. I know like how I feel about her. I know that we're going to have an opportunity to spend more time together.
Yeah, totally.
That's very reasonable.
And if it's said in response to like someone off camera asking or being prompted from someone within the cast to facilitate a conversation, which was probably like, how is everybody feeling about the date cards? Then that's a totally normal response, I think, and very aligned with how his perspective has been all along, which is confident and like cool. Like he's just like being exactly how he's always been.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I'm just was like, oh goodness. Thank goodness you're on my team, Chris S, because you're a dweeb. You are definitely a dweeb. All right. So Tamika says, this girl from Dear Shandy said Michelle's statement about the stars and Nate's statement about the one-on-one were definitely producer prompting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody says sentences like no one says, now when I look up at the stars, I'm going to think of Martin. Like no one just randomly says that. It must have been like, what do you think of when you look at the stars? When I look at this, it's like very like, I don't know, EQAO test booklet, like answering a question. It's like, or pageant answering, or it's like, let me repeat the question back and answer it with how I feel. And that's how they get all these sound bites, I'm guessing. So yeah, you can usually tell because there's certain sentences that people say that don't sound human. Like it sounds like AI has generated them. Like this is not how people speak at all.
So knock on, I don't even know where they are. They're in some sort of conference room or whatnot at this resort. And Nate goes to the door and there are, I don't know, 12 gift bags, all named for each of the men that are going to be going on this group date. And so when they unpack it, there's different pajamas and loungewear in these bags. Now, this is the first time that I've ever seen a segment like this, but Chris S fully got a risky business segment on The Bachelorette. Like, have you ever seen a segment like this before? Are you frozen? Oh, you are frozen. Okay. Tanya, come back to me. No. All right. Well, you guys in the chat room, like, have you ever seen a segment like this before? Because I think that it was very shocking to see them put so much emphasis on, like, just the t-shirt, like the dress shirt and the socks and the sliding in. I don't know if he had the sunglasses on, like Tom Cruise did, and risky business. Is she back? Is she back? Okay, I'll just pull her out for now. Yeah, it was just definitely different and out of place. Okay, she is back. Hi, did you hear what I asked or no?
Yeah, it was about this segment that he got that was like its own little like vignette.
Risky Business. Have you seen Risky Business? Tom Cruise, like full
I know the reference. Is Tom Cruise on the payroll this year? Or are we just like paying homage to that he's involved in it? Like, what's going on? No, but why? Like, my question is why? Like, it's precious time. Like, I can hear Leroy say one sentence per episode, yet I have a risky business moment from Chris S. No, thank you. Like, I don't need that.
I will take 5 points for that because I wouldn't even know that these type of segments existed. Like full on sliding in, like and like and flopping onto the couch and kicking. Like I was just like I was just shocked by the fact that he's wearing tidy whities and a t-shirt or a dress shirt. Anyways, it was shocking. It was so out of place and weird. Is he a producer pick, like fan favorite? Like, do they just maybe he should have been the Bachelor and they're like, damn. Oh.
I think they just latch on to people that they know will respond to like their zany ideas. Cause I'm like, oh, you could have done like different things with different people. Like Leroy's saying that he feels like he looks like Bruno Mars, right? And his floral like shirt. And it's like we could have ripped on that. We could have had a little dance moment, a sunglasses, 20 Karat Magic situation. Like there's other things we could have done here if that's what we're gonna do. Give us a montage. Give us something, but instead this, which made it seem very random. I was like, maybe they're just trying something out here. Or maybe
I would have loved a montage. A montage would have been fun. Right? Super fun. Yes, I'm agreeing with you. So it's going to be a slumber party games night type date, which is I think is pretty fun. Lots of pillow or lots of like stuffed animals and popcorn and games. And there was a moment where Chris S is playing Twister with Michelle and they have a little bit of a peck. Thought that was awkward, but it's the date. And so the men are really embracing their inner man child, and they're having a good time with hanging out and playing with each other. And what do you think that the guys, like how the guys were acting? Because Michelle does end up kind of feeling as though nobody was really wanting to pay attention to her. At one point, she calls over, "Hey, Clayton, like, how about you do this with me?" He's like, "Me?" And that was kind of off-putting because I'm just like, you are supposed to be on a date with her. So it was weird to see that not everybody was vying for her attention, but I could also understand personally with having so many distractions. So what do you think about this whole dynamic?
I think like there's a few elements at play here. I think one, these guys seem to like each other for the most part. So I think they were having a good time on the date, firstly. Secondly, I think there has to be some kind of like producer setup in this element to like really push Michelle to a breaking point of some kind. I don't really know exactly what that looks like, but maybe it was like they told the guys like Michelle will approach them, or like there was clearly a disconnect in terms of people being around her, not being around her. I feel like the producers were setting her up to feel like more heightened emotion and to kind of break in that way. Like that seemed to be the intention of it, because a lot of those guys have been attentive to her. And like, I just think it's strange that there would be such a discrepancy in that. And then the third thing, I think Caitlyn mentions it as well, is there's a sense of people not wanting to step on each other's toes and be stealing her and doing this and doing that. But there was nothing happening, like from what we saw. Like nobody was hanging out with her at all. So it was strange that it went down that way. I have to think that it's production rooted though.
Yeah, it was also weird, like when Olu was like wanted everybody to punch his stomach and she was gonna do it. He didn't want to let her do it. I was like, why wouldn't you want to let her do it? You'd think you'd want her to like touch your abs or, or something. I thought that was a little bit strange that he specifically excluded her from like that activity. I just was like,
I have so many thoughts about that activity as well. I'm like, how did this come about? First of all, banner episode for Olu, huge, like really getting a lot from him, which I'm super glad as my number one pick. But what's this game? Like I'm venturing to guess maybe this is why men don't cry, because they're punching each other in the abs as hard as they can for sport. Like, what is this? Is this a thing that happens? How did they, like, why did they do this?
I don't know.
I was so blown away by this.
It's a boy thing. I guess you like have to have grown up with a bunch of boys to understand that. I mean, I don't play wrestle either or play fight, or it's just I don't do that. I don't have a competition on how many push-ups I can do. These are all things that are I would put in the lumping together boy activities.
Like I never want to experience someone punching me for the stomach at all. Like, is this to prove like how fit you are, or like how much you can take a punch?
Take the pain.
Like, no, thank you. I'll pass. I'll eat a cheese string on the sidelines or something. I can't. No way.
I'm totally with you there. I was very surprised by this. I think even also the fact that, like, hey, should we play Duck Duck Goose? It's like, what? I'm sure it was Brandon that suggested that. And then I heard somebody on a live stream saying that it's not Duck Duck Goose, it's Duck Duck Grey Duck. You're from Toronto, so I'm assuming you say Duck Duck Goose as well. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of Duck Duck Grey Duck?
Yeah. No.
Okay, me neither. Never. Heard it's a Minnesota thing apparently, but I don't know. I don't know. So the Bella twins show up to introduce the next part of this date. And like right before that, I think that Michelle was talking to, or no, right at that point, Michelle is talking to Caitlyn and Tayshia, and she's like kind of holding back tears, trying not to cry. She's like, no, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. So there's going to be a pillow fight. Winning team is going to be able to spend some more extra time with Michelle. Very typical Bachelor kind of setup. And I'm also thinking about this date in general. I think this is also the first time she's had to juggle 12 men all at once. And I think that not that I don't agree that these men should have been taking more time to, come and talk to her and whatnot. But when it was like the cocktail party, that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's like, oh, we all want to have some time with Michelle. So like the people would keep on going in and talking to her. So I think with the lack of structure of the date, and then like there's so many of the guys together, I think that she just wasn't able to manage them correctly. And she didn't really tell them what they should be doing. We saw this similarly happen with Claire. She responded a lot more differently, but when the guys weren't wanting to talk to her, it made her feel a little bit like unwanted, undesired. So she tells us a little bit to Tayshia and Caitlyn, and then we have these competition. So what do you think about these? It wasn't a pillow fight, these stuffed animal fights against each other. Was there any surprising wins or losses?
I'm just always turned off by people who take these types of things too seriously and are playing so hard to win. I don't love that energy personally. Like if it's a teddy bear fight, and like I get it because you're trying to get more time with her, but like it's like Peter taking that other group date too seriously. It's just like it's not energy that I enjoy.
Agreed, but they seem to love it. So Dabu says, Michelle's reaction reminded me of Claire. If you have an activity-based date, expect that the guys will play around. Absolutely. Nothing stops the lead from pulling each of the guys. And I think that to your point, that they're just like, okay, go play and enjoy your time here. And I could totally see the producers being like, and Michelle's going to come and grab you guys when she wants to have a little bit of a moment. And so, yeah, she needs to have structured that out, being like, hey, you guys, you can play around, but like, let's all play together. And like, well, like, maybe suggest it to them. I just don't think they were thinking smartly.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, she didn't verbalize it, right? Like she was kind of like struggling with it alone in a way, maybe because she didn't want to get emotional in that moment, or she was still processing everything. Again, not invalidating like where she was coming from. We get the context of why that brought up a lot for her, but I just think she was sitting on that information and internalizing and just holding it there. Maybe she might have felt better if she actually did talk about it a little bit more. So it's kind of hard also for people to know how you feel.
Well, and also, like, I would think that, I mean, I don't know if I'd do this, but if I were the lead and like, I'd be like, hey, I want to play. Like, who's gonna be on my team? And like, I would probably take it a little bit more control of that situation. And I don't think I would have allowed myself necessarily to feel like an outsider on my own show. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I think that, yeah, her insecurities just kind of creeped in, and she stopped. She just kind of reverted back to an old version of herself, I think. And she really just needed to continue to be the lead and do whatever the F she wants. Like if she snapped her finger, they would all come running to her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so she just, I think, lost the command of being the lead. And that's just because she kind of reverted back to her old self. And that's what I think.
She's done this fishbowl experience where like it's ingrained in the experience that you're the lead of the show, so everyone is going to pay you attention because that's the way that this entire television show is built. So I think if you're coming off of several weeks like really feeling like the center of attention, then the difference when that's not happening is like probably really jarring, and it shook her, right? She wasn't feeling secure in herself in that moment. So, but I get it. She didn't want to go there then. She wasn't ready to like dive into that and unpack that then. But then instead she was just kind of like resting in that state of being really upset.
Like trying not to cry. Yeah. Feeling just sitting in it wouldn't be great. Yeah. So Tamika says, yeah, I definitely didn't agree with Michelle on a lot of this, but she was coming from a place of insecurity. The date had so many men and too much going on to make it a thing. Absolutely. Like the guys were just like playing around. Boys will be boys. Like, you know, like it's kind of like at a ball game or whatever, your man's favorite team or whatever, and you want his attention. He's watching the game. It's just kind of like, it's just two separate things. You told them to go play, so they're playing. Guys tend to not be great at compartmentalizing things. They can only kind of do one thing at a time unless they're told to do something else. And so they can't multitask. So that's another thing too, is that not all guys are going to be capable of realizing that, hey, like, I should be taking this time to go and sneak over a moment with Michelle. You told us to play. So, like, but if it was like to observe them playing and seeing how they interact with each other, maybe that's what they thought the exercise was, or the activity, the date. All right, so the winners are Clayton, Leroy, Olu, Casey, and somebody else. Who was that? Nate versus who? Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But they're going to be getting the after party. They were pretty excited about it. The losing team, as usual, is quite upset. They weren't going to get some extra time with Michelle. But okay, you must have been dying though when Chris S was going and Caitlyn was talking about, like, is he wearing, like, they're talking about, is he wearing anything underneath the shirt? And he's like, yeah, tidy whities. And Caitlyn's like, what if like a little beep boop? And I was like, oh my God, Caitlyn, you're so funny. And she's like, well, it happened on my season. It happened. And then we got the blurred out moment. I don't know if we got the box or the blur, but where something seemingly was being exposed in his wrestling moment. Something I don't want to see. How'd you feel about this?
I wasn't surprised that happened. I don't know. I don't get, like, they love to put people in uncomfortable clothing, honestly. Like, that's the gag in and of itself, is that just like putting people in weird things, and that his penis might show in this like tiny whitey. How they assign the different outfits? That's what I want to know. Like who they
but
everything to.
I mean, I feel like Chris is the most like Tom Cruise, so maybe that's why he got that whole thing. So Tamika says I said the exact same statement. Banner episode for Olu or Swolu. That's true. As he was called, he was pretty swole. Like, wow, what a body!
Yeah, that was incredible. Actually, I was.
Like, he takes off his shirt. I'll give you points for that as well.
Huge power move. Yeah, it was like, first of all, give me the points, but secondly, wow, like what a physique. He literally looks
I guess
like stone. Like he looks
chiseled,
incredibly chiseled. So I was
tempted to punch him in the stomach,
which would do literally nothing. It would feel like a light wind. Yeah.
A beep boop. So, as I mentioned, the winners are Olu, Casey, Leroy, Romeo, Nate, and Clayton. So she's still upset though that nobody came up to her. Caitlyn and Michelle are talking, I guess, in between the date and then the night portion of the date, and so somebody else pointed this out that I was watching a recap of theirs, and so she was talking to Caitlyn, who was wearing, I don't know, we'll say beige pants, and then there was another clip of her seemingly in the same position, but the person had black pants, and so they're assuming that it was maybe like a full conversation between two people that they spliced together, where she was expressing how she was feeling and, you know, relating it back to the poem that she read and not feeling picked, not feeling seen. And regardless of how I felt she dealt with the date, I was starting to recognize those feelings that she's had, because I've definitely experienced them many times in my life. And I started my crying fest for this episode. I was bawling from this point until the end of the night portion of the date. It got me. So she goes, she tells the group of guys when she finally, you know, meets back with them, and they're so excited to see her, and she's like, I don't want to come with any bad energy or be in a bad mood, but like, this is how I was feeling. And I have to say that she's so fantastic about addressing how she feels without making her look like the victim, or without pointing any fingers or making anybody, I think, feel bad in a way that was kind of like icky. Like, I just feel like she really addresses these situations in a way that makes people understand where she's coming from and not shitty, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it didn't feel like we talked about the Natasha situation in Bachelor in Paradise, and kind of how then suddenly the shift to everyone giving this attention and like overcompensating felt like it almost wasn't even beneficial to her. This didn't feel as intensely that to me, though still a little bit like there was the parade of like, I'm here for you and I do care about you, like obviously, like, you know, you're important. But then there were some actually like profoundly beautiful conversations that came out of this too. So I'm just impressed with the ability to process something like that like so quickly, I guess. Like, if you're having an experience that's super triggering or just like bringing up a lot for you, you could sit in that for a very long time. So her ability to kind of understand how that came up for her and to articulate that was really nice to see. So
totally agree. Especially in the moment, like you've mentioned here, that she's like able to be like, oh my God, I'm feeling this way. Oh my God, this is why, like, and connect those dots so quickly, and then be able to formulate what she's going to say to these men in a way that just, I feel, came across quite sweet and genuine. And I do like how she shared this with the men. I could see other people, like, remember how Claire dealt with it? We definitely didn't like how she responded when she felt a similar way. And so I'm fine with how she addressed the men about the situation. And then, so Michelle goes and I think takes Nate first. And somebody else pointed this out, and I thought this was really profound. I think it was Dave Neal. And he says that, the fact that Michelle pulled Nate away to talk to him first about the situation is actually the exact reason why he should feel confident that he will be eventually getting a one-on-one date. Like, there's something about their relationship and their connection that she expected more from him, and he didn't deliver in this particular date, is exactly the reason why he should be feeling confident. On that group date, he was the one that disappointed her maybe the most. And so that's what Dave pointed out, and I thought that was pretty insightful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then while Nate's talking to her, Olu is talking with the guys, and he's getting emotional and crying, and I started boohoo crying because he's talking about his sisters and how, like, he's watched them experience similar things to Michelle, and he's crying and I'm crying, and I'm like, it was just really beautiful moment just to see. This is what I find with diversity and being represented on the show, is that you do get to see these character building moments and seeing about where he's come from and how he can relate to the lead in a way that a lot of, like, that Clayton will say will never be able to completely understand. And that's what I thought was really beautiful and profound. And when Olu went and had his one-on-one and relayed it back to Michelle, and Michelle starts tearing up, I'm crying again because it just, that's her really being seen, is when he can take what she's experienced in, understand it from his own personal life experience, and being able to reflect that he gets it, and that she knows that he's truly sorry for making her feel that way. And I don't know, I just thought it was a really, really great moment for Olu and their potential relationship. And there's no surprise that he got that group date rose.
Yeah. Oh, and it just felt like he was very emotional. Like it was bringing up something for him as well. And it's in those situations too, I think like maybe some of the other men approached it this way, not for lack of effort, but like sometimes when you're going through something and you're feeling really emotional and processing that, like sometimes people talk to you in a way that's like solution based, or like kind of like, well, you shouldn't feel that way because we see you and we care about you. This was very much just holding space and being like, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, which in a lot of ways can be one of the best responses, or not best responses, but one of the most, like, I don't know, showing that you have a lot of empathy and like really being able to sit with someone in that without there being anything else that you need to achieve, if that makes sense.
Totally. And that's exactly what she needed from, we'll say, Nate. You know what I mean? Like him. I don't think that Nate fully understood how she was feeling. I don't think he get it, but Olu got it. And that's why I think that he got the rose for sure. That's why she was able to feel safe, feel seen, feel heard. And it was, I thought it was a very beautiful moment. When I was watching it, I was like, oh, okay, these are like the rom-com-y moments that, like, I was like taking notes in the way that, like, I could use that as a beautiful kind of moment in, if I was ever to write something, you know what I mean? Because it was very real. And it got to the heart. Oh, it was beautiful. Okay, so this date ends. We did see some other people on the date kind of say, like, oh, well, you feel seen, but I didn't write them down because they were pretty inconsequential. But now we get to the Rick date, and I felt uncomfortable by his intense run out of the vehicle to meet her. Like, he bolted and like runs and hugs her, and I was just like, this is a bit too intense for me. Like, I don't, like, do you know her? Why do you like her? When's her birthday? Like, how old is she? Like, what's her middle name? What's her favorite? Like, you don't know her to be like running so quickly to see her. It made me feel uncomfortable. How about you?
Yeah, it was giving me like Ben Smith vibes, where it's like, this is someone who has undergone a traumatic event or traumatic events in their life and is still very much in the figuring out process of what that even looks like for him. To juxtapose it with like Jamie, for example, like not to, you know, say things worked out for Jamie, but in the context of learning about his story and the way that he was speaking about that, to me is like someone who has processed through that a lot more and is at a point where they're a little bit more understanding of how that's impacted them. Rick seems like he's still very in it in the moment, in the same way that Ben was, like, you know, seemed like a nice guy, but he was still like a lot going on for him that was like maybe too real. That's exactly how I felt this date. Like, just like, he seems like a nice person. Like, I get it, but I just felt uncomfortable because he seems like vulnerable, but not in a safe way. Like, in a way where I'm like, oh, I hope you have another person to speak to about this stuff and like are able to kind of gain some support in that regard.
Yes, I think you're hitting the nail on the head here, because the fact that all of a sudden she is his be all and end all and he doesn't know her, that's, I guess, where the worrisome part is for me. And I do think that he still needs to process some of his healing, because I don't see him and Michelle being at the end together. And I just hope that he's going to be able to handle that breakup when it happens. Like,
yeah,
I worry for him.
He's like telling her already that like she's changed his entire life. It's good that you're starting to tap into those things, but you've maybe at this point like cumulatively talked to this person for a few hours. Like, I don't know. And it feels very Ben-like in that way. There's just like a lot of like push for this being a real thing, but like that I don't see necessarily that he would actually be ready for that. I think he's got some. Sorry, there's also a dog barking that won't stop barking. I
didn't notice until I just now, but it's okay. Don't worry. So they're going to have to. She asked him if they're ready to take their relationship to new heights. And so they take this gondola up to the top of the mountain, which is, I don't think is that scary. You're not scared of heights, right? Or are you? I can't remember.
I'm scared of heights.
Oh, how would you feel about like these kind of gondola type things?
I think I feel a little bit better about being fully enclosed in something because I don't feel like I'll fall out of it. But I think I would definitely be getting a little bit anxious as it got higher and higher up, just because that was a lot. But it looked beautiful. Like, it did look really nice. And funnily enough, they showed that same gondola on Vanderpump Rules. I don't know if you noticed that, but
when were they in Palm Springs? Oh, for
just a clip like in between of like the gondola rising, like between scenes. I was like, okay, this is just like around in my life today.
I mean, maybe it means something. Maybe it's go to Palm Springs and get on that gondola. Okay, so they're walking around holding hands in the forest. I thought it was kind of a cute moment where it's like, don't split the trees because it's bad luck. And so they're kind of like doing kind of coupley things for the first time. I'd never heard of a tree smelling like butterscotch, so I thought that was interesting just from like learning about horticulture. And then they get to the box. It's take a wish, read a wish. Now, do you think that this box existed there and the producers planted it with their own wishes? Or do you think these were all organic wishes? Or do you think the box and the wishes were all producer planned?
Maybe the box was there before, but there is no way that these notes are not planted by producer. First of all, the paper is crisp. Are you telling me it's never rained? There's never been any elements around? Like, these are not weather. This looks like writing of someone who's trying to pretend that they're writing not something nice. You know what I mean? Like, it just like all stinks of planted to me. Like, how is this happening? Clearly, like, what? And then they obviously put this in there to trigger him to speak about his experience. That's what I thought.
What did it say again? Can you just remind me what the wish was?
I wish my dad could see the man I've become.
There is no one ever would have written that down as a wish. Like this, like it's just not the type of wishes that you put into a box. It's not the wish
It's
that
not
you.
even bent. It's not even folded up. It's like just a flat ripped piece of paper.
We just toss it in
Like,
there.
I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Definitely, we know that one was planned. Because like wishes that usually happen are like, I wish for $1 million, I wish to meet my soulmate, I wish to fall in love, I wish to 1,000 more wishes, I wish, whatever, have my dream job. Like it's usually a little bit more basic. Not like, I wish that my father could see the man that I be. Like it just wouldn't have been that. Like if you're doing maybe a whole session, like maybe a new moon ceremony, and you're like kind of fleshing out all the parts of you, and you're like writing down like pages and pages of what you want to draw into your life, maybe I can seeing your father seeing who the man that you've become, but not for the wish box.
They were all so basic too. Like they're like the idea of love that they feed us in this show as a whole is so frustrating because it completely betrays like any other non-traditional type of experience where it's like, no, not everyone's like, I wish I had a love like my grandparents did. Like that's love. That is like it's obvious like just driving nuts. Yeah.
Oh my god, I want to hear your rant, but you're breaking up.
Oh my gosh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I kind of love like my grandmother, and then I didn't hear the rest of the rant.
I was just saying that that's like such a cliche. Like all of these wishes were very like, this is what we think love should be. A love my grandparents had. I wish my dad could see the man I've become. Like they were all very basic concepts that this show tries to like stuff down your throat as like being like, this is what love is like. And that's just not true. Like, I'm sorry, that's not it. Period.
Charlene says, come on, we all know the producers put the notes in there. We are not that stupid. I know. I'm just asking the question, Charlene. There's not one part of me that felt that these were like organic notes in the box that were perfect segues for Michelle to share, about her grandparents, and then for Rick to have the open door to kind of start speaking about his father and the situation with his dad. So he does mention though that his dad passed away 3 years ago. And then we get to the night portion of this date, and I don't think that she's into him at all, but the fact that his father passed away, I felt that she didn't feel comfortable with letting him go, with him being so open and vulnerable. And I don't think she would have maybe yet either, but I don't feel that she's into him. They do go into a little bit more depth as to what happened with his parents. So something along the lines of, he saw some text messages that weren't from his mom. He tells his mom they ended up breaking up. Dad kind of goes into a depression, and since then his dad has passed away, and he feels like the dissolve of their relationship has fallen on his shoulders and it's his fault. So it's pretty heavy for a person to kind of take that on. So, I mean, I do feel that Michelle might not be the person to work that through with. You might need to speak to somebody that's a little bit more, that's their profession, because like that's pretty heavy taking on that responsibility, especially since the father's no longer here for them to be like, no, it wasn't you. So I do hope that he gets the help that he needs. Yeah. For sure. Charlene, I agree with you as I'm talking to the producers in my no, don't worry, Charlene. It's all good. Sorry, go ahead, Tanya.
No, I think like I don't know how equipped people can possibly be to like know how to respond to that. And this is now the second person who's had a parent pass away, that she's had a one-on-one date with, very intense circumstances. I think all things considered, she did a good job in like trying to respond. But I think the thing for me that was like just a big, you know, point of focus was just like he still blames himself for what happened, and it's totally not his fault, you know. And I hope that he's able to kind of work through that stuff, because that's heavy, that's really intense, and there's only so much that your partner is going to be able to support with that's not like personal work that you also have to do moving forward. Like your partner's can be a source of support for you, but he's placing so much emphasis on how she's changing his life and changing him, and I don't think that he's actually like really addressing within himself some stuff that he needs to. Purely like me being an outsider, I don't have any like psychology knowledge. I'm just like observing it. Yeah. So very vulnerable, but also I hope he's able to kind of work through that stuff too.
I mean, I hope this experience is the beginning of his journey to heal this portion of it. Yeah. So hopefully it's going to be helpful, not harmful. But Tamika says Rick was on his way out. I think that she felt bad and kept him. Plus the group date went south. Yeah. I mean, I don't think she was going to be, after he told his story, I didn't think there was a chance that he would be leaving. Not this episode anyways. That would just be too horrible. So she does call him my little lettuce wrap. So she does like giving the nickname. So that's cute. Will you accept this rose? So I get 5 points there. And I get 5 points for Mr. Rick Mr. Lettuce Wrap gets a concert. Andy Grimmer, I think his name is.
Andy Grimmer.
Grammer. Oh, I wrote Grimmer. Andy Grammer is, do you know who this person is?
I did not, but apparently more people knew who he was than some other musical artists that they have on there. But I'm personally not familiar with him. I think this is also partly why the date continued, because they had set the stage literally for this performance. He was not going to not have this go down. It's just like the promotional thing. So I think if anything, they're like, she's probably going to keep Rick regardless. That's why we're going to give him this date. We're going to give the prompt to give him a moment to share his personal tragedy, essentially, and then we're going to roll on the concert. Like, I think they just like kind of viewed it as a lock regard.
And the line of the concert was, "I've got a brand new lease on life." So isn't that poignant? So I think it was very producer planned that he was going to be sticking around for sure. So we get to the cocktail party before the rose ceremony. Michelle, I thought she looks super pretty as usual. And then my guy, Chris S., decides to give her a drink and give a speech, basically saying that there's some guys that think that there are front runners and they have this in bag, and that Michelle should be giving time to other people. What do you think about this moment? You laughed when I brought it up.
I was thinking, because he was calling out the date and how no one was talking to her, and I was like, you were on it, and you also weren't really doing it. So I don't understand.
Maybe he thought that he was like, because he had the Twister moment with her, so maybe he's like, she's not talking about me.
And the way he did this was terrible. Like, this was, you could see Michelle's face, like she was like shooting daggers out of her eyes, just being like, what? And then the awkwardness of Brandon being like, can I steal you first? And then Chris being like, actually, I'm going to. And she was like,
Brandon, I'll come get you after.
Like, so weird. Oh God, terrible.
So weird, but I got some points there at least. It was so awkward. So Michelle and Chris go and talk, and he decides to name Nate in his conversation, saying that Nate is the guy that says that I expect to get a one-on-one, and it has to be that the producers are trying to make Nate not look like such an obvious front runner, because like if I heard this from the guy that just made that speech, who I'm not into, I'd be like, oh, you're just jealous of Nate. And like, I don't really find what Nate said to be offensive because, yeah, he's going to be getting a one-on-one date next episode. So, like, it's not really cocky. He kind of just knows what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, it was like such a ridiculous thing. The only thing that didn't help Nate in this scenario was he wasn't
Nate?
in this conversation with Michelle able to really articulate himself nicely. I don't know if it was just like ready to go off on Chris and like couldn't think of anything else and needed to just like get out of that one-on-one situation because he was pissed off. But he didn't advocate for himself very well in that combo. Like I think he could have explained like the actual context of what went down and it wouldn't have been an issue, I don't think. Like I understand her point about being like, I'm not a prize to be won, but I didn't take that from his statement. Like I didn't take that he was viewing it that way. So I think he could have probably addressed it better with her. But I understood why he was irritated with Chris. And Chris is like, at this point, I guess it was the producer's best friend this week and thought that like he was like leaning into being a villain, but like you're not epic and you're not having these iconic moments. Like you just come across looking like a dweeb, as Nate said.
Also really interesting about the evolution of Chris the villain. What is it, Chris? The S stands for, what was it, Snake? Was that what Romeo said?
Snake. Yeah.
Is that I never before noticed anything about his height before. But this episode, he looked so small. And it just gave me complete Napoleon complex, like mad that Nate's the tallest guy in the room, that he's so confident. And it just seemed like he was just trying to take down the tall guy because like he was feeling inferior to Nate's like height.
Yeah. Well, for sure. I read a comment online that said that Chris S was giving them short man energy, which is definitely picking up. And I also think it's just like very telling of his own insecurity to be like, who's your target? This like person who's very clearly got a connection with her that's 6'8" and like super attractive and confident. That's like you reflecting like what you want to be. You know what I mean? Like there's like qualities that are like things that you wish that you had in some capacity. And that's why you're trying to do that. If you're going to do this, then like you pick somebody that's not clearly a favorite, you know, like there's a lot of really like people that you could have done this to that maybe you would have been more successful in. But I think having it be Nate was a really bad choice to call him out.
Especially because he's just so not about the drama at all. So Charlie said that was funny. All the guys were looking at him like, what are you doing? Yeah, like I was just like, what are you doing? And not even speaking eloquently when he was addressing Michelle. I'm just like, man, this is a bad look. I don't even understand how Michelle was entertaining any of it. You know, it's just like,
yeah,
what? Huh? So when Chris was talking to Michelle, the guys were kind of all chatting and a bit pissed that another person that's grouping all the men together when he's deciding to make some sort of speech to Michelle. And like, that's actually would be really irritating to me, being like, hey, if you have a problem, say to her by yourself directly. Don't be like speaking on behalf of all of us, to all of us, about all of us. Like, do it on your own time. It just was a bad place for me, I thought. So Nate, yeah, as you mentioned, had a chat with Michelle about it. And I think that he was pissed. And I think that he didn't know how to phrase what he wanted to say because he was trying not to blow up. I think he was trying to keep his cool because he was pissed. And we do know from episode 1 that he's not great at expressing his emotions that well, but he's trying to do better, right? So I think that he was trying to not say the wrong thing as well as like keeping a lid on his anger. Then we get a mini fight. So I think we both get points here. So Chris S and Brandon have a kind of a fight. I'll give us points for that. And then Nate calls over Chris to go talk. And when they go and talk, like, Nate was being pretty reasonable, I'd say, and he was just using his hands. And I was actually really pissed when Chris was like, "What, are you gonna put your hands on me?" I was like, that's a microaggression, absolutely, because there was nothing that Nate was doing that was intimidating, that was showed me that maybe he was going to hit him, punch him, even touch him. Like, he was just kind of like, "Hey man," like, and that actually really pissed me off with Chris. I was like, nope, you lost me completely with like deciding to make it about being scared now of Nate. You're changing the narrative of like, oh,
Yeah.
Nate was overly confident in saying something about Michelle. Now the new narrative that you're painting is that he is aggressive and he's intimidating you and making you feel unsafe.
No, total microaggression. And totally like, you initiated this entire thing. Like, you put his name in your mouth. You instigated this entire thing. Behind the scenes, you're laughing it up, cackling like you're the best villain ever, and that you're so like into the fact that you've got everybody riled up. Nothing on the other end was aggressive, or like his voice wasn't even raised. So like, I just think that that was like in very poor taste.
Very angry. I was, anyways, when I was watching this. And then he was like, "Oh, she probed and questioned and probed me and questioned and probed," and I was like, "No, she didn't, liar."
Just gave a speech. Like, what do you mean?
And then Nate asked him something, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not doing homework on that." I was like, "What? Like, what are you doing homework on? What did you tell her? What did she say? What did she ask you?" So in his ITM, he's like, "I came in on my white horse to save her from the castle, which she has been," and I didn't write the last word, I guess, been hiding. I don't know what the last word was. I didn't.
Such a reductive and stupid statement. Like, first of all, you didn't save anything. Secondly, she doesn't need saving. I guess other than saving from the producers who don't have her best interests in mind, but otherwise, not from you. And
Yeah, not from you.
No, sorry, sir.
Oh boy, he's made me so mad. Okay, so trying to take out one of your main competition, or least you think. He's not even in the running here. So the fact that like he thinks that he can go toe to toe with Nate, like he can't height wise, he can't go toe to toe with him. That won't work. And connection wise, that won't work either. She likes Nate. She doesn't know you at all, except for what you're presenting her this episode. And it's not good. It's not good at all. So Michelle is continuing on with their little dates. Joe brings some snacks. It looked like M&Ms. But she seemed to have never tried these snacks before. What was going on?
I don't know. I was
You didn't take a snap a picture?
No, I didn't, because I was just I had to watch this portion of the episode as well as Rick's date like 2 or 3 times, because in my initial viewing of it yesterday, I was just like not even paying attention. So some of the details are lost on me here. I was like, I love snacks, I'll always receive a snack, but I just I don't know if that was like a great example of showing her how there for her you are. It's like these random snacks in a blanket, but it's fine. Joe knows to just like chill.
Yeah, just be cool, silent type. He has a blanket. Everybody loves a cuddle, I would say. I was just surprised that she didn't know what the candy was that he didn't feed her. I was surprised that he put it in her hand. Right, so he gives it. She's like, "Here you go." Like, yeah. I totally thought he'd be like, something cute, sexy, or whatever, but just plops it in her hand. I thought it was cute, actually. Rodney has a little bit of moment back her. I'm gonna give 5 points to me here. I think I have Rodney, or do you have Rodney?
You have Rodney.
They do a handshake. I didn't know there was a handshake involved, so I thought that was pretty fancy, we'll say. It solidified their bond, their relationship with a little handshake. She was really cute with Brandon. they have a very childlike relationship, but I like it.
Me too.
He's cute.
I like him.
So Olu asks Chris if he thinks he's getting a rose, and then Chris decides to blow this into like, do you think that why do you think that I'm not getting a rose? And it's like, that's actually not the question that Olu asked.
So do you think you're getting one? That's all.
What did I write? Oh, and then he has all these terrible lines like, you could put that flower on your beds. I'm just like, his one-liners aren't good. I'm not a fan of him. I'm done. But we get to the rose ceremony. The order is Brandon, Leroy, Joe, Rodney, Clayton. Oh, and then I have a question. If you notice this, I wrote down: did Clayton get super mic'd up or something? Is this like where we're supposed to start noticing Clayton? Because like his volume in his ITMs was so loud, so crisp, and so over, like not in balance with what was going on in the episode. I was like startled by it. I was like, oh, notice Clayton. Okay. And then Casey, and then Nate. So we put Nate second to last, and then Chris S. So Chris S is going to stick around for one more week. Womp womp. We do lose Romeo, which I'm sad about, but it doesn't seem like he was her vibe. She seems to like a little bit more of like the athletic type guys, it seems. Chris G, Sorry Canada, and Will are all gone. Was there someone else, or was just the three of them?
Maybe just three, unless we're missing someone.
Say two. That's it. And I have to say that the next trailer looks pretty good. When I was watching it, I was engaged. I was like, what's happening? It seems like a lot's going to go on. So hopefully it's a good episode. So that's pretty much it. The outro was the drifting car moment with them in the backseat bonding and her getting sick. But that's pretty much it for the episode. Anything else that you wanted to touch on that we didn't talk about? No? You're frozen. Never mind. One thing though that Chris does say is that like Chris doesn't like her infatuation that she has with Nick, and that he's getting the short end of the stick. I'm like, Chris, like you don't even have a stick. Like you're not getting the short end of anything. It's done. This is your last episode. I guess he wants to go out with a bang. That's it.
And you can see in the preview for the next episode that it seems like they just kind of keep showing him in this context. Like, there's no way he lasts past the next episode. There's no way.
Impossible.
He's done.
Whose place would he take? Like everybody else that's left there, she has a decent connection with at this point. And now she's going to want to give the one-on-ones to the people that she actually likes, you know? And maybe second one-on-ones to some people soon too. So Tamika says she keeps on waffling who the fourth person is in Michelle's top four. I think I pretty much know the top three. I think the top four are going to be Nate, Joe, Brandon, and probably Rodney.
I could buy that.
With like a Clayton out fifth or sixth, you know?
Rick could make it close if he's going to be following the Ben Smith model. Not that I think that he's the right match for her, but I think Joe, Nate is for sure. I feel like Brandon is pretty likely from what we've seen so far. And yeah, that number 4 spot is really interesting, but I think Rodney's a good guess based on how they've been laying down the groundwork for his narrative. And I also think she likes hanging out with him, which I've heard leads in the past when they do podcasts reference, like, or at least specifically like Nick Vial brought this up in relation to Corinne being in his top 4, is like, at the end of the day, he had fun around her. So it's kind of like those people do end up making it a little bit further along. So I could see that. But I do think, yeah, that fourth person is like the most up in the air for me right now.
Well, if we look at it being the fun person, I don't see that being Rick. You know what I
No.
mean? Like, unfortunately, the date and the vibe that he brings is just too it's too serious for me. I mean, I love being serious. I love having serious conversations. I work with like talking to people about their feelings and what's going on with their life. I totally can empathize and can have tons of those conversations, but I'm also pretty fun too. And so I would want to have like light, fun dates and like laughing and joking and like running around. It just seems like he just wants to kind of be somber. It seems. It seems. So
Wow.
hopefully if he does get another date that we can see another side of him, but right now he's a bit of a snooze for me.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking too, like it's not gonna be Martin. It's not gonna be
Oh, Martin's still there. He's done the
like it's
next
not
episode.
gonna be like any of those people. I love Olu and I have high hopes for him. I think he's great, but I just don't know if he's getting enough traction to like
And Leroy,
and yeah,
haven't
also
seen him.
we haven't seen anything of Leroy. So from what
Maybe
we've
he
seen,
becomes the next villain.
yeah. No, I don't. Well, who knows?
No,
Eventually, they're going to go the angle where one of the favorites become the villain, as it always happens. Whether that's going to be Nate or Joe or someone, you know, you start off as the Greg, and then you become the Greg villain as a favorite for some people on this show. So I think someone will assume that spot. I just don't know who, but or how. Like, I'm not suggesting it's going to be a Greg situation, but you know what I mean? A favorite turning into the controversial person.
Absolutely. Natalie wants to know if I'm going to be recapping the Challenge All-Stars. I think so. So we're going to do a draft pick, a speed draft pick today after we do our recap of the Challenge, the regular season. We're potentially doing it maybe 10 p.m. on Fridays to do like an hour recap then. And it might be like a rolling out of people that are able to pop on and chat about it. So I will say yes. I'll at least be doing it by myself. And then I might have some rotating guests depending on people's availability. So it will be a yes. And if you want to know what our draft picks are, we'll be doing that at the end of tonight's recap. Okay. And last question for today. She likes Leroy. He hasn't gotten any time, but stayed over many who has.
Yeah.
True. So he has a nice energy to him, and like I like his vibe. I think he's very attractive. So I would love to see more from him. So if we do, maybe he'll last a little bit longer. But if we don't, I can easily see him going as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for being here. I don't even know, how does it get so long? Like, how do we talk this long? It feels like it's so quick. Subscribe, please, so you can join in on these conversations that we're having. If I'm not mistaken, it'll most likely be regular time, 6 p.m. On Wednesday evenings. I think that we're going to lock that in for the rest of the season, so you can expect us here then. And if you're watching this in the replay, make sure you like this video. But if you also can let us know who you think is your top four, who do you think is your fourth person? I do want to see where everybody's feeling. Maybe it will be Clayton, and that's why he gets this position as the Bachelor. Maybe that's going to be reserved for him. Who knows? So let us know what you think, how things are going to shake out in those final four. And if they're already in Minnesota, it's kind of silly that they're already there and then they're going to leave and then go back to Minnesota for like her hometown date, like final two dates. But
yeah,
maybe they won't do it like that. Yes, good night, Tamika. Thank you so much for being here. See you next week. Thank you so much. Anything else, Tanya? Or is that it?
No, that's it.
Bye. Thank you
Bye.
for being here. Ciao.